Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our special coverage here on QNews. We will bring you the most significant stories shaping our world today. In the wake of Gallant's dismissal as Israel's defense minister, the Likud party has intensified its surveillance of his actions in the Knesset. This scrutiny aims to collect evidence of his independent stance and opposition to government policies, potentially leading to a declaration of him as a coalition defector. If successful, this move could bar him from future elections within the Likud or any current Knesset party unless he resigns. Prime Minister Netanyahu's strategy reflects a deepening political rift as he fears Gallant's dissent may threaten crucial votes amid ongoing tensions surrounding the Gaza conflict and recent ICC arrest warrants for both leaders over the war crimes in Gaza and Lebanon. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is reportedly urging former Defense Minister Gallant to resign from the Knesset in order to prevent him from voting against the government. According to sources within the Likud party, Netanyahu and party officials are closely monitoring Gallant's actions, preparing to declare him a defector from Likud. This move comes after Gallant's dismissal on November 5th, following disagreements with Netanyahu over the handling of the Gaza offensive. Netanyahu's goal appears to be ensuring that Gallant cannot challenge the government's position in future parliamentary votes, especially as tensions remain high over the ongoing wars in Gaza and Lebanon. Meanwhile, the Times of Israel has reported that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is facing significant legal challenges, both domestically and internationally, which could affect his leadership amid the ongoing conflicts in Gaza and Lebanon. The International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu and former defense chief Gallant, accusing them of war crimes and crimes against humanity during the Gaza conflict. The charges include targeting civilians and using starvation as a weapon. This comes just weeks before Netanyahu is set to testify in a long-running corruption trial. Moreover, the Jerusalem Post has reported that the International Criminal Court's decision to issue arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former defense chief Gallant has made global headlines, particularly in Europe. According to the newspaper, the warrants strengthen accusations that Israel has committed war crimes in Gaza. This move has fueled calls for diplomatic sanctions, including cutting ties and suspending arms sales to Israel. European countries, including the Netherlands, France, Germany and the UK, have indicated they will respect the ICC's ruling, meaning Netanyahu and Gallant could face arrest in these nations. The decision also raises concerns about the potential impact on arms exports to Israel, especially in countries like Germany, a major supplier of Israeli military equipment.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's decision to dismiss Defense Minister Gallant on November 5, 2024, has triggered significant political turmoil within the Likud party and Israeli politics at large. The move follows months of escalating tensions between the two leaders over military strategies in the ongoing conflicts in Gaza and Lebanon. Netanyahu cited significant gaps in trust and differences in managing military campaigns as his primary reasons, emphasizing the need for unified leadership during wartime. Gallant's opposition to key government policies, including negotiations for detainee releases and military service exemptions for Haradim, has further strained relations within the ruling Likud party. Sources suggest that Likud is closely monitoring Gallant's actions and public statements, potentially gathering evidence to expel him from the party. Such a step would bar him from participating in future elections and limit his influence over key votes that could threaten the coalition's stability. The political landscape is further complicated by recent arrest warrants issued by the International Criminal Court (ICC) for both Netanyahu and Gallant, accusing them of war crimes related to the ongoing war in Gaza. Amid this, Gallant's supporters hint at the possibility of him leading a new political faction, which could secure significant seats in upcoming elections. This unfolding crisis underscores the internal divisions within Netanyahu's coalition. The government continues to face public dissent over its military strategies and judicial reforms, adding to the growing challenges of managing national security and political stability.
And delving more into this, we are joined from Ramallah by Major General Habis al-Shuroof, the Director of Palestine Institute for National Security Studies, as well as from Paris, Dr. Majid Boudin, a Professor of International Law. Gentlemen, welcome to Q News. I'll start off with you, Major General Shuroof. Now, with tensions between Netanyahu and Gallant at an all-time high, what factors have already led Israel's Prime Minister to consider removing Gallant from the Knesset altogether?
First of all, I would like to extend my greetings with respect to Gallant. The main cause is the war against Gaza, and the issue was just the ceasefire and the process of exchanging hostages between the two parties. Gallant thought that he achieved some targets, and Israel should return the hostages with the Hamas and the Palestinian parties through negotiations. And the second point, Netanyahu considered Gallant is against for his policies, militarily or politically, what is the more closer to the U.S. In his policy. Therefore, Netanyahu wanted to dismiss him in order to pave the way for Netanyahu to move forward in his policy that he thinks that is appropriate. And the Minister of Defense in Israel has military plans according to the army and the staff of Israel. Therefore, he moves forward to the proposals of the military commands. Yet Netanyahu has a different agenda rather than military, that are political. That therefore he thought to dismiss Gallant before the results of the U.S. elections, because he was aware very good that the Democratic Party is failed in the election, and rather not to get any pressure from the side of the United States of America.
Dr. Boudin, now, what would you say are the main reasons or the primary factors that contributed to the ongoing tensions between Netanyahu and Gallant within the Likud party that actually deemed Gallant as an obstacle or a challenge for his plans moving forward?
Well, this is the syndrome of the next step in every war. Netanyahu has achieved the first step to destroy the maximum of forces, of infrastructure, of course, going through these massive killings in Gaza. And then he moved to south of Lebanon. Then we have at the same time the elections. And you can notice that the removal of Gallant was exactly the day of the U.S. elections. So Netanyahu has this agenda. He has seen that Trump will be the next president. Gallant has cooperated with the Biden administration. He wanted to have free hands with the Trump administration, and there were a disagreement on how to handle the hostages issue. So he preferred to get rid of him. And in politics, when somebody is not in the scene, he's out of the game for at least a while, and then he will master the game with having in mind now in that day the Trump administration, having in mind that he wants to go further in destroying without any obstacle. And he doesn't care about the hostages. And also he had his own agenda to continue the war as far as possible. So his legal issues and prosecutions against him will be on a second row and will be forgotten for a while and to the maximum. This is the major elements that constitute the conduct of Netanyahu. At that time, after that, we had this ICC arrest warrant, which came in the scene. They tried to prevent it. A lot of pressure was made. There is a clear collusion that Netanyahu and his government, they were very active to prevent the International Criminal Court to issue the arrest warrants. But, and this is very annoying and it raises very deep concerns. It shows that interventions and pressure on international courts are a real issue and a fact. And but now the world is a little bit relieved when the court did not surrender to the pressures and delivered these arrest warrants. And this will, even at the first glance, you can see that the political forces have united behind Netanyahu. Doesn't mean that will last for long. So it looks like that now in the next future, we will redistribute the cards because this war cannot go forever. And politically speaking, the situation will change, and this arrest warrant is playing a major role.
Well, Major General Sharuf, looking at it from a military point of view now, in what ways have the public disagreements between Netanyahu and Gallant affected Israel's military strategies in its multi-front war in Gaza and Lebanon?
I do not think this wouldn't affect a lot around the pattern of war, either in Gaza or in Lebanon. Ultimately, Gallant is a minister of defense, and he is executing the policies of the cabinet, and Netanyahu has a very excellent far-wing extremist government headed by Gafir and Smotrich. Therefore, it is a majority as a consensus in Israel between the opposition party and the cabinet coalition around the continuation of war into Gaza and Lebanon. Therefore, the dismissal of persons wouldn't be effective with respect to the war, but the path they are going through right now is the calls that demanding the ceasefire, and in Israel do not relevant now with the ceasefire or even the hostages deals. They are very much concerned to continue the war and achieve the goals laid out. And up till now, the Israel couldn't possibly to achieve the targets either in the Gaza Strip or in Lebanon, but they only just achieved more assassination, destroying schools and infrastructures, whereas Gaza is an area that cannot live on and divided the Gaza into 4 portions. Their policy only relied on destruction and therefore never achieved the goals since the war has been launched. And there are many reasons, and given the reason that the war has lasted for 1 year, that troubled the army as well as in the soldiers, because they lost their work, their jobs economically. Therefore, there are some problematic issues within Israel, not only between the political leaders, but also there is a big concern in the public around corruption issues, the hostages issue, and the interim regime to be enlisted in the Israeli army. These disagreements are going raised, but never reaches to the extent of a conflict within the Israeli society. But it exists. It might lead in the future to the topple of Netanyahu's government. Ultimately, Netanyahu won't be accepted to respond to the judiciary consultation, the opposition party, or the families of the hostages, and even the international community that led Israel is abandoned state. And the Israelis right now are thinking today or tomorrow to come out in a sense to return back to the normal path in the Middle East.
Dr. Boudin, now Netanyahu's decision to dismiss Gallant from the parliament, does it stem from a fear of losing power? In other words, do you think Gallant casts a shadow over the parliament or over the party or over the whole cabinet and the strategy that Netanyahu is following?
The day Netanyahu decided to eliminate Gallant from the government was to strengthen his own position as prime minister to avoid a competitor who has, from the Israeli point of view, the glory between brackets of handling this war because he was on the front line. So Netanyahu wanted to kick him out to get to be himself in the front line, and he's acting as an effective minister of the army. So, but this now it becomes a second point, because the major point today is that both of them now are under this arrest warrant, and we can expect in the future that other ministers could be matter of another arrest warrant. Like all these, how the International Court of Criminal Court issued these decisions. They issue them on a principle that when they find out by facts that there is a massive killing, massive massacres, they will see what we call in international law the chain of commandments. It means who has planned, who has ordered, and who has executed these orders to realize or to execute or to these massacres. And the International Criminal Court now find out that Netanyahu and Gallant were the minds behind these killings, and they were ordering these killings. So, but it doesn't stop there. They must see how Netanyahu and Gallant has taken these decisions and whom were with them in this decision making, and probably they could enlarge this to other ministers and to other members of the army. So this is something which can happen in the next future. When you see now the political side of it, a government cannot have on its head somebody who has no diplomatic protection anymore, at least in the 124 countries, members of the ICC court. So as a state, they have its own requisites, and they need to have somebody who can go freely to different places in the world. And so Netanyahu is not the proper person anymore. So in the next future, it will be some changes to have somebody who can represent Israel, who can go to Europe safely, who can go and defend the interests of Israel. So this issue is on the table of the political class, the political parties in Israel now. So having said that, how the things will develop, we see that the political life of Netanyahu now with this arrest warrant is becoming shorter. And the political, the situation, it's true that all these government is a very extreme right-wing. They don't care about international law. They don't care about humanitarian law, and there is no difference between them. But still, you have contradictions. You have competition. You have a matter of leadership, and the society in Israel is moving, and people are seeing that they are isolated. There is no diplomatic protection. There is immunity, and so they have to find a way. And you have the pressure of the allies. They don't want to be with somebody who is now a matter of an arrest warrant.
Yes.
So this thing is going to be...
Pardon me, but Major General Sharoof, now, as international scrutiny intensifies ICC warrants, concerns about dissents within the parties, a new U.S. administration approaching, do you think, is it possible that Netanyahu will opt to end his multi-front war, or is he more likely to escalate it in order to distract from facing any legal actions?
I think this is for the first time in history that such a court issue arrest warrant to the hierarchy in the prime minister, and I think that the wall has fallen gradually, and I think also that Netanyahu, no matter what he did, either he stopped the war, still war crimes. He committed genocide. He committed along with the Israeli army. And I think that he should be held accountable, not him and the Minister of Defense, but the army officers that were very proudly disseminating Trump. This is a court and this is a law, so justice should be prevailed. And
yes.
You have 124 countries have signed, adopted and ratified the decisions of the court, and the rest of the world countries are committed to implement this decision.
Yes.
And I think
Major General Habis, yes, Well, I'm sorry, but we are running out of time. Ladies and gentlemen, that was from Ramallah Major General Habis Sharoof, the director of the Palestine Institute for National Security Studies, and from Paris, Dr. Majid Boudin, a professor of international law. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here on Q News. Now, as the political storm brews in Israel, the fate of Yoav Gallant hangs in the balance, with Likud's watchful eye on his every move. The stakes are high. As Netanyahu tightens his grip, the question remains, what price will be paid for dissent in this turbulent chapter of Israeli politics? Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our special coverage for today. I'm Henny Saif. Thank you for joining us.